Hello, I am Rob,
And I'm Angie.
and together we are
Twinfinity.
Twinfinity.
We are twin flames in union who have been called to start sharing our 20-year journey with you guys through a series of videos.
Today we are downstairs in our basement with the fireplace on behind us because outside it is cold and snowy. It's very cold in Celsius terms, including wind chill. It's minus 20 to minus 22, which would be just a little bit below 0 Fahrenheit for those of you who speak the Fahrenheit language. It is not nice outside. We're hiding.
Yes, it is winter. It's finally started. But also, I'm very happy in a sense that it's winter because I really wanted to do this video down here. As you can see above, we have our fireplace with our little love and our angels. This is very normal. This is how it normally looks. We didn't just stage this for this video. In fact, I wanted to add a little thing about for those of you that know Kalina Malnar and watch her videos, when I started watching her videos and saw her love sign in the background, I was like, oh, I have one of those. And so I always thought that was just so funny. And then, watching her videos, she would talk about, I love love. And I'm like, yes, me too. I say that too. But I think it's common for all of us because as twin flames, we're drawn to love because it's our mission. All of us, that's the main purpose of why we're on this earth. So I just totally resonated with Kalina when I saw her first videos and had my own love in my own house. So it's really quite fun to do this video in this setting because what we're sharing today is the day we met. So what better place to do that with a little love sign and some angels in the background.
So just to do a little bit of a recap, I had just been spending about 3 years living here in Calgary and going through a massive amount of what I would call good, deep spiritual growth. I was breaking away from my religious upbringing, which was really not all that strong, wasn't all that binding, but I was developing a lot of my own thoughts, my own connection with spirit, my own thoughts about why the world is the way that it is, and what really a meaning of life could be. I was really becoming quite satisfied with what I had come to all my conclusions with while I had been hiking all over the mountains and climbing and scrambling mountains.
And for me, if you remember my video, for those of you maybe that haven't seen it, I'll just give you a brief clip. I had felt this weird call to move to Calgary, so I moved not knowing anybody here. And by the way, just for those of you watching from other countries and everything, this is Calgary, Alberta, Canada that we live in. So I felt this weird, strange, I have to move to Calgary kind of feeling. So I had nothing else really going on in my life. I had just graduated from university, was feeling like I was done with counseling, feeling like it was time to move on from my friends. So I thought, fine, I'll move to Calgary, not really thinking anything of it. I moved to Calgary June 13th of 1997, and we actually met on July 25th, 1997. So I only moved a month and a bit before we actually even met. The amazing thing, as you guys know from this journey, is synchronicities are incredible. So for me, the fact that I moved when I did was amazing. And for him, he was just starting 2 weeks of holidays before we met.
Yeah, our July 25th was on a Friday, and I'd started holidays at the weekend before. So I'd already gone out and climbed a couple of mountains or done a hike or two. And it was, I was on a pattern of hike for a day or two and then take a day off. You got to do that once in a while, recharge a little bit, because I was back then I was a very, very intense person. Not that I can't be now, but I was super intense. I had my whole life all planned out. I'd know what I was doing a week or two in advance, and like right down to the half hour. So
Yes.
I was probably just on a mission of go, 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 because I had 2 weeks off and I wanted to make the very, very best of it.
And for me, being that I was really new to Calgary, I was just trying to look for friends. I was doing all sorts of things like trying to join yoga classes and other activities, but there wasn't a lot going on because it was the middle of summer. So Similar to the call that I had to move to Calgary, I was just in this weird, I guess, burnt out place of not even really thinking, just going with whatever came to me. So I did something that I normally wouldn't even do back then or now. I actually ended up writing this note saying that I was new to Calgary and put it up in the laundry room. That's how I decided I was going to find friends since none of the other ways were working. What's really amazing and really odd is that I actually still have this note over 20 years later. You'll discover later in our story why this is so amazing. I won't get into that now, but it's quite surprising even to me that I still have this. So I'm going to read it to you and then I'll show it to you. So I wrote, "Hi, I'm new here. I just moved to Calgary and I'm interested in meeting some people, male and female. I love to bike ride, explore, and just try new things. I'm 23, but age doesn't matter. If you're interested in making a new friend, give me a call." Again, not something I would ever normally do. Back then, I was a very shy, timid person who was afraid of everything and everybody. And still now, at 43, that's not something I would do.
Yeah, and who just goes ahead when you're living in a tall apartment building with hundreds of other people? Who just throws a random note up on the
Completely.
bulletin board in the basement where the laundry room is, saying, "Hi, I'd like to meet people"? That's almost scary.
Yes. So here's my note. And as you can see at the bottom, there's even little tear things. I had put in my phone number and my name on there so people could tear it off and take it home and call me. Don't know why I did this. I still think I had like angels knocking in my head going, "Write the note."
Now, myself, I consider myself to be a fairly safe person. So I thought, if I'm going to go out and meet somebody, I had no ulterior motive thoughts in my mind. I thought that I would just be someone who would be good to chum around with. I was on my own anyway, but I knew lots of things about Calgary because I've been exploring it lots, and the hiking bit attracted me to the thought that, hey, if someone wants to go hiking with, this is a great idea.
So my question, and we didn't purposely discuss some of these things ahead of time because we wanted it to be real and authentic. I want to know, because I don't think we've ever discussed this question.
Oh, here goes.
What did you think when you saw that note? Like, were you like, what kind of crazy person does that? Or did it intrigue you? Did it, like, what drew you to actually go, oh, I'll talk to her?
Well, I think that my first reaction really was, that is really brave.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So here's a person who's brave. They're either slightly crazy or else very self-assured. Either one of the two. Yeah, I can go either direction too. I'm okay with that. But I don't know whether I had a little bit of protectionism or thoughts, but either way, it was intriguing because it was unusual. Normally, you see people's business cards posted up on a bulletin board, or someone saying, "Hi, we need more people to play in our Tuesday afternoon bridge game," or something.
Advertising for cleaning or something like that.
Yeah, but who wants to go hiking and they've already admitted that they're new and probably on their own? Yes, it was intriguing, very intriguing. So yeah, I'm not sure if I was the first one to tear off a phone number off the bottom of that, but I did, with the thought that I'd probably myself would have to get a little bit braver later just to even make a phone call.
So what's really neat, for those of you that haven't watched our last two videos, is I have kept journals from way back since 1993, actually, when I started counseling is when I was encouraged to start writing. So it became a natural thing for me, and I wrote everything in my journal all these years later. So I had actually written in my journal about meeting, or actually him phoning me, and what it felt like. So I'm going to read some of my journals just so you can get the real deal. So I'm going to show you the back of my journal because it's really pretty.
And by the way, I only listen to what she says from her journals. I don't read her journals. That's not my
I read
place.
it to him.
But she reads it to me. But of course, she gets to edit what she reads too. So maybe I'll hear something that I haven't exactly heard before.
So this was Tuesday, July 22nd of 1997. Again, this was over 20 years ago. I wrote, when I was out, a guy, Robert, called and left a message. He's going mountain climbing tomorrow on Castle Mountain in Banff. Totally cool. I really Liked his message. He shares my energy, which I really liked. Now, what amazes me is I'd never met this man. We knew nothing, zero at all about twin flames or even really soulmates. I mean, none of that stuff was common knowledge like it more is now. So for me to say he shares my energy, I just read this the other night preparing for this video, and that blew me away when I actually read that,
Now,
that I wrote it like that.
another thing I need to point out is that I don't say, "Hi, my name's Robert. I saw your note down in the laundry room. Give me a call." I don't think I've ever left a message that short. I probably left a 5 to 10 minute message trying to just establish a little bit of a rapport. So she probably got a pretty good feel off of that about what I would initially be about.
Yes. So that's the first thing I wrote in my journal about the whole connection with him. And then the next day, July 23rd, which was a Wednesday, and I'm actually really grateful in my journal. I even wrote what the day of the week was, so it's kind of helpful to look back. So I wrote, wow, I just got off the phone with Robert. He called at 9 p.m. or so, and we talked until 10:45. Fantastic guy. Now that's someone I click with. I figured I would just by the sound of his message that he left yesterday. Very upbeat, excited type of person. Cool. I have a headache now from trying to contain my excitement. This guy is 32, which is no big deal. Finally, someone who excites my mind. I like people like that. So you can tell I've not even met this man yet, but already I'm like super excited, and there's something about him that I find different and amazing. Now keep in mind, again, for those of you that haven't watched our previous videos, I had very little experience with men. I didn't date till I was in university. I'd only dated one other person, oddly enough, whose name was Rob as well. And we only dated for 3 months. So I was new to this whole male thing. And also, just another thing on the whole dating thing, I was not intending to meet people to date. I was not really interested in dating. This was just, I was looking for friends. So when he called, I wasn't thinking about dating or romance or anything like that at all. That didn't come into my mind. I don't know, did it for you at first?
No, not at all. And in fact, just to throw in my own bit here too, me being so intense back then and so go, go, go and having a very busy work life, working hard, playing hard, if I would have got 15 minutes into a conversation and been totally bored on the phone, I would have found some form of an exit strategy and got off the phone, and life would have continued on. To start out a first conversation lasting an hour and 45 minutes, that's a pretty good sign. I obviously was pretty impressed by what I was hearing too.
That's a good point. So then my next journal, I'm just going to make sure I'm reading from the right spot here.
She's got notes all over the place. She may need a second or two once in a while to make sure she's got the right spot. I'm all good with that.
Yes. Okay, here. So then I'm talking about the next day that we talked. So we actually talked on the phone twice, but it was 3 days worth because we were, leaving messages for each other back and forth. So what I wrote is then the next day was Thursday, July 24th. I said, he called me from the top of a mountain. That kind of freaked me. I started to think he was another clingy guy.
I call people from the top of mountains. I don't know if that was my first time, but it definitely was not my last. I do that. It's fun.
And also, just to explain, he was one of the people that had one of those old cell phones, like one of the very new ones back then, because cell phones weren't common back then. You had one of those big things that, it wasn't like what we have now for cell phones.
It was something to lug up a mountain. It was like carrying an extra water bottle almost.
So it wasn't a common thing even that you would call somebody from the mountaintop. I mean, those kind of phones weren't around that much.
And another thing to explain here is scrambling. Scrambling is a type of mountain climbing where essentially when a technical climber, someone with the ropes and the helmets and everything else like that, when they go and do their climb up to the top, sometimes they go back down the same way that they came up. Other times they grab their gear and they walk off an easier trail off the other side of the mountain. Scrambling is going up the mountain using the technical climber's walk-off route.
Yes.
And that's what I do. I've never climbed with a rope. I've just always done steep hikes to a summit.
Yeah. So I wrote that I was a bit freaked out that, what the heck's this guy doing calling me from the top of a mountain? But then I said I also was flattered that he called, though. He then called again that night when he got home, and we talked for 1.5 hours. Totally deep stuff like soul, childhood, parents, and God. We really connected. Again, this is what I find amazing. The whole thing about twin flames, connection is a big word. That's one of the first things I wrote without even meeting this person yet. So then I wrote, even though I only talked with him 2 times, I really felt like I knew him. So we made plans to go to the mountains the next day. We got off the phone at about 11 p.m. or so, and I was so excited that I couldn't sleep. Finally, I was starting to feel fed. And literally, I was vibrating with so much energy after our phone conversation that I was literally jumping on my bed. I just had so much energy, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I so remember that. I felt like a little kid the night before Christmas, just completely excited.
Now, of course, I would have been all nervous. I was, because I wasn't nervous about meeting someone. I was nervous about making sure that I had, like, let's say, some food with me, and the truck was all filled up properly with fuel, and I had a route all planned out for doing an introduction to the mountains.
That would have been
and also making sure that if things weren't going well, I would have a short route back to the city for a drop-off, or if things were going really well, I could finish out the tour. But I wanted to give a real tour where a person would see all sorts of things, like just like a guided tour. So I was busy trying to figure out, well, where am I going to stop? Am I going to stop here, stop there? I liked hydroelectric dams and water storage dams. There's a lot of rivers around this area and quite a few storage lakes to trap fresh water in the mountains and for flood control and whatnot. So there's all sorts of things to show. There's the natural stuff, there's the man-made stuff. I wanted to have it right. So I was a little nervous, not about meeting someone, but about doing my part.
And keep in mind, this was also a very spontaneous thing, which he's not a spontaneous person. So it's 11 o'clock at night, and we've decided we're meeting at 7 o'clock the next morning. So
I need sleep. Thank you.
He needs sleep, but he's also trying to plan because he's a planner. So it was an interesting dynamic, just the fact that we're like, sure, let's meet tomorrow. I mean, who does that? Apparently we did. So then I wrote, so Friday, July 25th, I met Robert at 7 a.m. So we met in the lobby of our building. And tell them what your first impressions of me were.
Well, I get off the elevator. There's a fairly large lobby in this place, and then there's a set of double doors. And according to my recollection, I don't have journals, so I have to try to actually remember all this. She was actually standing in between the 2 doors from inside to outside. So she turns around. I'm stepping out of the elevator. She comes back through the doors. We're both in the lobby, and I'm thinking, wow, she's short. And she's got on these gigantic glasses. Like, these glasses fit me. If you could just go like the bug eye, almost Elton John like type glasses, except they're not sunglasses, they're just normal glasses. She's got on these ginormous glasses. And she also has this little backpack that is not a backpack. It's a book bag.
Yeah.
For going to university, but we're going out to the mountains and maybe going for a hike or two while doing a tour. It caught me totally off guard. She was totally not what I was expecting from what I had envisioned from someone who I'd been talking to on the phone for numerous hours by now.
And I actually struggled with the same thing. I don't know why. I guess just because he talked so much about mountains and mountain climbing. I literally had pictured Grizzly Adams. For those of you that don't know who Grizzly Adams is, it's a show that was on in the, I'm guessing, late 70s, early 80s.
Somewhere way back then.
It's literally this burly guy, facial hair all over him, really hairy man, not very tall, but...
I've got the hair.
Yeah, he's hairy, but not in the faces or places that I expected, which was all over his face. So he's not at all what I expected. I expected shorter, I expected burlier. He just didn't fit what I had pictured. So it just all felt wrong. And I'm staring at him going, who are you? So this feeling I had on the phone was all gone. This connection that I felt was like not there at all.
And of course I probably had my serious face on because it's game time. I'm not all relaxed on the phone having a chat with someone. It's time to go. I've got a tour to do. So
He's
hi,
Mr. Schedule.
hello.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go to the parkade. I'll go. Let's jump in the truck. We'll get this show on the road. So I was probably way out of the character that I'd been on the phone too. So
Yes.
so we both really caught each other really off guard.
Yes. So our first, I'm guessing about 20 minutes together driving was quite awkward. I remember I have two memories of us in the truck before things started to flow. One was I kept looking over at him and I was in the passenger seat and I'd stare at him and I'd be like studying him going, where's the person that I connected with on the phone? And the one thing that not resonated, but I saw so much so was his eyebrows. And I've actually had permission to talk about his eyebrows, but he has the funniest, neatest eyebrows I've ever seen.
Giant,
They're so
bushy.
long.
I can make them stand way up. Sometimes I thought of even tacking them down around the outside of my eye because sometimes they wrap around my eyelid.
And I just remember thinking, oh my God, dude, like I need to trim your eyebrows. I
No.
swear to God, that was one of my first thoughts. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with you? But his eyebrows did something weird for me.
It wasn't facial hair.
Oh. The other thing, and I think this for me was where the comfortable started to finally flow again and where I was able to let go of the appearance that didn't fit with what my image was when we were driving and he asked if I was comfortable with the temperature in the vehicle. And I said yes. And he said, okay, well, I'm just going to leave it midway and we can negotiate if neither of us is comfortable or if, one of us needs a change. And it wasn't so much what he said, it was how he said it, the energy he had. He was so generous and kind and thoughtful and respectful. And that's the energy is what I connected with. And it was like, oh, it's you. Now I remember you from the phone. Do you remember that?
I would have actually offered that you could just adjust the temperature, and if it got outside of my comfort range, then I would say something. So I kind of left the heater controls all up to her.
Yeah, he was just so kind and so generous. So it started to flow, and what's really amazing is we weren't even out of the city before we started to have connection again like we did on the phone. And we didn't realize this until we were just kind of talking and remembering and reminiscing just a couple weeks ago. Where we started to finally feel comfortable with each other was the exact same spot in the city of where I felt the call that I had to move to Calgary when I was driving through Calgary on my way to Banff with a girlfriend way back in April of 1997. So absolutely amazing that I felt the call to move at that same spot that we had connection sort of coming back.
For me, it's where there's a railway bridge that you drive underneath as you're driving out of town on the main road. And when you drive underneath that bridge, you're almost on the edge of town, and it's a chance to relax. You're actually getting out onto the start of the open highway, and I probably relaxed just a little bit. And at about the same time that Angie started to feel comfortable at the spot that she had already recognized her initial draw to move to Calgary from, was about the spot that I relaxed too. And conversation from there really started to flow.
So flow.
I probably started into something that I would be comfortable with, which was talking about being at peace in the mountains. And I would not doubt that we started out talking about being at peace with our whole universes.
Yes, because we both had a deep spiritual connection to the mountains, a huge draw for them. So probably just driving through or into the mountains just really helped us connect and talk about the passion we had for mountains, and it just opened up conversation that didn't stop all day.
Now, I must have relaxed fairly quickly because about a half an hour into the drive, knowing the route that I took, it was actually such a perfect tour of the mountains that I've repeated it with other people that have wanted to tour the mountains too. So about a half an hour into the drive, we break away from the main highway and take a couple of shortcuts that involve gravel roads and very scenic areas that you normally wouldn't see from the main highway. We got onto a portion of gravel road, and I would have asked Angie if she was comfortable, and if she was. And I probably through nervous energy, I think I was getting a little carried away. She would call it having fun.
It was so fun.
I was in this pickup truck, put it in two-wheel drive. It's a fairly wide gravel road, but it's got lots of corners. Well, here I am. I'm skidding around
Oh my
corners.
God, it was so fun. I'm like squealing like a little kid.
Spraying gravel everywhere, breaking every rule that you're supposed to do, hoping no one's coming around that corner because I'm sideways coming through it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to have fun.
And I think that's where we relaxed even more because you were in your element. His dad always drove trucks and was a
bus driver,
trainer, like a teacher.
He was a driver instructor, and also a driver examiner. You know, you'd go to him to get your driver's license, and he was an examiner for anything that rolled on rubber wheels, class one extended length, big semi-trailers. He did all that.
So he learned from the best of the best, and he was an awesome one, and still is an awesome driver. So I felt completely safe, completely comfortable. But to see him in his element just caused me to relax even more too. And we just had so much fun. Oh my God, that's one of the memories I still have, is skidding down the gravel road and just squealing and having a ball.
So from there, we would have got back out onto a secondary highway. I remember stopping at the first major hydroelectric dam. We walked over to the spillway and threw some boulders down the big concrete spillway. Now I'm talking boulders, only hand-sized ones. We weren't chucking 100-pounders or anything like that. But we would have continued on from there, another half hour to 45 minutes up the road. We've got upper and lower Kananaskis lakes. These are big lakes, 5-6 square miles apiece. Would have looked around up there, right close to the continental divide that divides Alberta from British Columbia, east flowing water from west flowing water. And then we would have backtracked just a little bit and grabbed another big wide gravel road that connects the secondary highway back to the main highway, coming back through Canmore. Angie remembers stopping for lunch somewhere along that road. I barely remember eating all day.
And what's kind of funny but also a bit sad is that between the two of us, our memories are quite sporadic. I'm so grateful for my journals because at least we have something. But I so wish, there's so many days that I yearn to be able to go back to that day and those days afterwards even, as the person I am now with the memories, the knowledge that I have now, but go back and be like a fly on the wall and watch all of that because there's so much that I forget. I'm glad I do have some good memories. But yeah, I wish I remembered it all because it was truly the most magical day of my life. There is not a day since that has surpassed it.
So we would have gone down a nice steep little gravel road hill. I love gravel roads. Into Canmore. Canmore is going to show up a lot in our future here too. Then from there we would have gone west into the province of British Columbia and stopped at our furthest point away from home called Emerald Lake. Really beautiful place.
Beautiful.
It's just one of those places where you know you've stepped into a corner of heaven.
In fact, we talked about we'll hopefully do a video up there sometime, maybe canoeing, because there's this beautiful, it's literally emerald green lake, which was why they call it Emerald Lake. And you can canoe out there. We're thinking we should do a video out there sometime. So maybe you'll get to see it.
We've got so many places to do videos from.
Totally.
If we do the same, or a video from the same place more than 5 times, it must be because it's really bad weather and we're just stuck inside.
That's right.
Because all the outside places we have, there is
so many
no excuse to do any from other, maybe a winter and a summer. That's about it. From Emerald Lake, we would have backtracked to one of my favorite all-time places, a place called Takaka Falls. The waterfall doesn't have a ton of water that comes off it, but it is still fairly large. It's a creek about 15 to 20 feet wide as it's flowing out of the mountains, but Takaka Falls is taller in height than Niagara Falls. Not that Niagara Falls is super high, but it is a really beautiful spot of the planet. It's only open for about 2.5 months every year to drive to it. It's in a really heavy snow belt, so a lot of snow has to melt. and then it starts to snow again early again, so it's not open very often. But July 25th is right in the middle of summer, and that place was open, and I was super happy to take Angie there. Spectacular.
And I was so glad to go because that's one of the memories I have of the day, and it was such a powerful memory. I remember we just had deep, deep conversations. There was just something magical about the place and the water, and we had this whole conversation about water equaling life, and that we all need water to survive. The earth does, the animals do, and I wish I could remember the whole conversation, but it was just incredible.
It would have linked back to my thought about rivers and how they so much sculpt the earth, and this is where rivers start, is right here, because right off the top of the waterfall is a glacier. The water doesn't get any colder. It just was ice a few minutes earlier.
Now, what also is odd about our day and that place specifically was who the heck, when they've just met a person, they've only talked to them twice on the phone before, takes a picture of them at this place.
Yeah.
He has a picture of me from there, which I'm going to show you guys because it's not that great of a picture because you can't see me too well in it.
You might have to try to get a little too close because you get to see Angie 20 years earlier, and she might even be able to see those glasses.
You can't really see the glasses in there too well, but it's too bad. We'll find another picture. I think next week when we do one, there'll be a picture of the glasses.
Yeah.
But I still find that absolutely amazing. Who the heck takes a picture of somebody they just met? That's weird. But how cool that we have that.
I never thought it was weird. It's just kind of the way I am. If you're going to spend a day with me, there's going to be a picture. Maybe it is creepy. Oh, well. Sorry.
I don't think it's creepy. I just think it's really neat, but odd that we have pictures from the very first day that we met. Wow. I'm still blown away by that.
Okay. Cell phones didn't exist
the
way they do now.
Not at all.
These are like real
cameras.
Pictures. You have to get them developed.
Yes. You have to pay money and get printed hard copies.
Pictures were a very deliberate thing. Yes. I took a picture.
Yes, you did, which is amazing.
So from Takaka Falls, by then we'd been talking for hours and hours and hours.
About everything.
And I was almost in a daze. I was absolutely awestruck by how close we were, how many things we agreed with, how relaxing it was. I was giving a tour, but we just flowed from spot to spot. After Takaka Falls, we would have gone up to Lake Louise, which is, well, many of you would know or have heard of it before. And we would have wandered around up there for half an hour. Then I would have gone to Moraine Lake, which is not very well known, but still super spectacular. Just alpine lake after alpine lake. And they're all not the same. They're all very, very different in their own way. So Moraine Lake has got 10 massive mountains around it that ring it literally. Just enough room for a road to get through and a creek to get out to drain the lake, and that's about it on one side. Other than that, you're completely surrounded by mountains. Absolutely beautiful. Then from there, we would have gone back down to the main highway and moved on to a place called Marble Canyon. It's one of those canyons that's 50 yards deep and 5 yards wide. You're crisscrossing with bridges back and forth over top of this very narrow but very deep canyon. You can see the water down there, and it's amazing how nature carves that area out.
Wow.
Very,
Totally.
very, very beautiful. Back then it was surrounded by trees. Now it's surrounded by sticks. Forest fires happen, but it's still spectacular as a creek.
Now, what makes me feel a bit sad is there's a lot of these things I still don't remember at all. We were just talking about this tonight, determining what we were going to share in the video and what we weren't, and I was like, really? We went there? I don't remember that. So I feel sad that there's some things I don't remember.
We stayed right on my original plan, right? We stayed very, very close to it.
He took me everywhere, and I mean everywhere, for a mountain tour that day.
And, for Angie to not remember is not surprising to me, because when we get into conversations, time disappears.
Yes. I almost go into a trance, almost.
Yes. So for Angie not to remember, well, I'm really glad she's got her journals to help remember, but I thoroughly remember many aspects of the day, and then there's other bits that I don't either. But it's a good thing that my memory and her journal are slightly different because the one is sparked back and forth to cause lots of things to come together. But I knew that by then we were rolling into late afternoon, early evening. Actually, still late afternoon because we hadn't done Johnson Canyon yet.
Which I was going to say, let's talk
How
about that.
many stops can we get in one day?
We did a lot.
This was scheduled.
So let's talk about Johnson's Canyon.
Johnson's Canyon is a place that every tourist stops at.
So, I had actually been there as a child, probably 9 years old. It's funny, I actually have pictures. I should have pulled one of those out.
It's got a metal railing boardwalk and a couple of waterfalls at it, and just one of those spots that you can get right into it with the high walls of the canyon far above you. Another one of those, I keep saying it, beautiful spots in the world. I wanted to show another
picture. This was one that I took, and I was so grateful at that time. I don't know what camera I had, but it had a date stamp on it. So I literally have pictures with the day we met stamped on them, which, call me a romantic. I'm sorry. Okay, look at the back. I am a romantic. I got love and angels and candles on my mantle. So anyway, this is Johnson's Canyon. I don't know how well you can see it, but it actually says it. It's just a picture of the sign. But if you look at the date, it's got the date stamp of 7/25/1997. Blows me away still. So that was our first day.
So we get up near the top, the furthest point away from where we're starting our hike from at Johnson's Canyon. It's roughly half an hour up the canyon. Waterfalls galore along the way, beautiful photo ops. And we come to a spot that I like. I call it the Tiger Ice Cream Rock. It's just a rock wall, but it's a brown-colored rock wall with black streaks through it. We got another picture of this.
Now, before I show the picture, I want to ask, is that always what you called it, or did we come up with that together? I thought we came up with that together, but I don't know.
I think I'd thought of it before, but you might have coined it first.
Well, I don't know. I think we did together, because what was so neat, for me, Johnson's Canyon was one of the memories that I have tremendous, because of, it was really where we started to bond. We would tangent. The word tangent became like a favorite word for us because we would go from one topic to another topic. And it was almost like if you can imagine a tree branch, how it's got a branch and then like a bunch of other branches and then a bunch of other branches. We would go from one topic, branch out to another one and another one and another one, and then come back to our original topic and then go branch out to a whole nother thing.
Do you realize we've just tangented on tangents?
We're crazy people. So the Tiger Ice Cream Rock was what really started our tangents, because this rock, I'll show you the picture and then I'll explain a little more. So if you can kind of see, it looks like, if you know at all what Tiger Ice Cream is, it's like orange and black ice cream. Now it's funny that we would equate a rock with food. Obviously we like food.
It's not funny for me at all. I like ice cream.
He loves
I like ice cream. Yeah. Ice cream sprinkles.
So we see this rock and we're like, oh my God, it looks like Tiger Ice Cream. So then Tiger Ice Cream gets us on this whole topic of what's your favorite ice cream? What's my favorite ice cream? So he tells me his is maple walnut, which still is all these years later. Mine back then was peanut butter chocolate, which it still is. So then the word peanut butter got us on a whole nother tangent about all the foods that we liked peanut butter, because we both loved peanut butter. So then all this whole topic of peanut butter, and then peanut butter led to cheesecake, because one of my favorite kinds of cheesecake is peanut butter cheesecake. And then cheesecake led us on a whole other tangent, and we talked about how we love cheesecake, and we went to the Cheesecake Cafe, which I know in the U.S. it's Cheesecake Factory. In Canada we have a Cheesecake Cafe. So it just went on and on and on, and we had conversation after conversation about everything, all just because of a Tiger Ice Cream rock.
So for a day that had started out nervous and had been so intent on just showing a whole bunch of different things and then going home, we had talked deep spirituality, or as deep as we could back then, as deep as I could. I think
it's still pretty deep.
Yeah, I have to give it credit. Back then, I was still, wow. not very advanced. Not that I'm very advanced now. I look at other people around me and I go like, I barely have got started. It's okay. I can barely not start. I'm very happy with where I am now. I was very happy with where I was back then.
Are you? Can I read a piece from my journal?
Journal time.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were done. So I just wanted to share a little bit from my journal about Johnson's Canyon because it's just fun. So I said, then we did Johnson's Canyon and totally bonded, which is exactly what we're saying. That's where the bonding really started to happen.
When you start to talk about food with Robert, you've bonded.
Totally. Okay, now I lost my spot. Just talking like crazy and went from one tangent to another. The walk didn't even seem far because of all the talking we did. We were both thriving since we could talk with someone who got it. And we had a connection that we couldn't really have with anybody else. And we talked a lot about got it, because he got it, I got it. We just got each other. So I also wrote, we both felt very heard, understood, and accepted.
I had never had a lengthy or even a short conversation in my whole life that was anything like what we were experiencing that day. It was far, far beyond special already. I was wondering who I had met. I wasn't going, oh wow, did I just meet someone I'm going to have in my life for the rest of my life? No, I was still trying to figure out where this was all coming from. I wasn't able to even get out of the day trying to figure out why everything was clicking so easily.
And to be honest, I hadn't thought anything of any of it myself either. I was just so in the moment, and the moment was so intense with all this connection and tangents and discussion and topics and relating that I didn't even think, which is odd for me because I'm very much a logical, analytical, in my head kind of person. But everything just flowed, so I was just so in the moment. So can we now talk about the next step, which is
somewhere along the line, after we had eaten lunch way back whenever, somewhere along the line we'd had supper. I totally can't remember.
Can't remember where that was.
Maybe we didn't have supper.
Maybe.
And too busy talking,
yeah.
Can't eat. So from there, it's time to start to wind our way home. So we took a secondary highway that parallels the main highway, and we come around the corner to a place called Ghost Lake. Ghost Lake is held back by the Ghost Dam. So here I am expecting to, please excuse this, give another dam tour.
Yes.
And we were actually following a thunderstorm. And this storm was basically over Calgary, which was roughly 20 miles ahead of us. But this was a massive storm, and what was in front of us was just this big white wall of cloud. People on the other side of the cloud who had been on the dark side, all they would have seen was this dark mass coming at them. The end of the world was on its way for them. We were looking at the back of this beautiful, fluffy cloud. And when we came around the corner at Ghost Lake, the first thing I saw was that the sun that was setting behind us to the west was shining off the back of this cloud back across the water at us, and here I was looking at sunlight brightly reflecting in the water as if it was sinking into the ocean, but yet the sun was behind me, and I didn't know what to call it. I pulled over and I stopped right away. We were both very intrigued by this.
Just in awe of it.
I got out of the vehicle. I don't think I ever snapped a picture, else I would still have it. But I don't think we got a picture of that.
No.
But after discussing this just a little bit, we came up with the term reverse sunset. So now I've just had a day that had started out slightly uncomfortable, but got comfortable in a hurry, talked about everything, had deep spiritual conversations, even talked lots about food, and now I was getting something I had never ever seen before in my life. I've been out around prairies, mountains a lot. I'd never seen something that would be a reverse sunset before, and it was happening with Angie on our first day together. I was finished. I could not comprehend where this day came from. There was so much about this day that would have been amazing, all in little bits, just to have a little bit of it with any person who was new in my life, and yet there was point after point, time after time, and now a reverse sunset. I was done. I couldn't add it up anymore. I was moved completely.
So tell them, or actually, I'll tell them, and then you can fill in a bit of afterwards. So we were both so moved by this sunset. In fact, you know what? Instead of telling you, I'm going to read you a bit from my journal, and then he can fill in a bit too, because it just says it authentically from way back then. So I wrote, then the drive home is what solidified the bond. I swear God just touched us. I felt so at peace. Then Rob mentioned the word balanced, and I freaked because that's exactly what I had with him. Very balanced connection that fit on all levels. I was fed mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It was incredible. Then we saw what we called the reverse sunset. The sun reflected in the clouds on the other side of the sky, which reflected on the water. Just amazing. I felt so close to God. We both knew this was of God, and we felt so blessed. Rob felt me reaching for the clouds like he was, so he said,
Okay.
Are you going to read it?
No, I can't read it. As a friend, can I hold your hand?
Yes.
And I had to add in that we had developed lots of what I call points in the bank. You know, you give a little bit of forgiveness if somebody does something wrong or says something wrong. I said I didn't want to spend all my points in the bank, but I wanted to hold her hand. This was amazing.
Yes. And again, like, we didn't set out to think of dating each other or any romantic. This was just two people going to the mountains that like the mountains. So that's why he said as a friend, because he knew that, you know, he was kind of maybe crossing a line that was inappropriate because we were just going as friends.
First time.
First day, right? So, so I said we sat in the truck holding on to each other, knowing that this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment to be shared and treasured. I still find that fascinating that I wrote that back then. We knew back then how significant this was and the blessing that it was. And it wasn't just about the clouds and the way they reflected the sun. It was the energy. It was literally like a lightning bolt had hit us both and said, something is unique here. Pay attention. And we felt it.
This was a gift.
Yes.
You can call it a gift from whoever you want. It was a gift.
Yes. So I also wrote that Rob kept saying he didn't know how he was going to let me go when we got home.
We were attached. I was done. I was happy.
That was it. It was like
melded, bonded together, Siamese, saw us apart at the end of the night, maybe.
So then we start driving home even further after we get over this whole amazing, oh my God, wow moment of this reverse sunset and all the energy and the connection and the bonding and the soul merging. Really, again, we didn't know back then that's what it was, but that's what was happening, is our one soul was coming back together, and we were going, holy crap, like, what is this amazing connection? So we start driving home, and we decide we're going to go to Dairy Queen, because when we were on the phone the night before, he was telling me that every time he climbs a mountain, he gets a Dairy Queen Blizzard. A Smartie Dairy Queen Blizzard was always his treat. So I was now craving one, and we decided, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night, let's go to Dairy Queen. So we get into Calgary now. We're not even far from our apartment building. We go to the Dairy Queen that's close by. And it's so adorable. I have to share this part of the story because this is one that I really, really still remember. He is so attached to me. He's like, I don't know how I'm going to let go of your hand to get out of this truck. I don't want to let go. So he quickly lets go of my hand, runs around to the other side where my door is, grabs my hand again, and helps me out of the truck. I mean, God, how adorable. Like, the love. I didn't recognize it then as love. Again, I was just so in the moment. I wasn't thinking of all of that. I was just enjoying the moment. So it was so funny. Even we were in the restaurant ordering, and he goes to pay, and he's like struggling because he doesn't want to let go of my hand enough to grab his wallet even. Like, he's refusing. He is not letting me go. He was serious in the truck where he's like, I don't know how I'm going to let you go. He did not want to.
I might be a hand-holdy, huggy person. Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
But I'm almost embarrassed to be that obsessed with holding somebody's hand.
It was
the first day
adorable.
that I met her. Again, all first time feelings. I was really obviously enthralled by the whole day.
So even then, we get our food and we decide we're going to go sit out on a picnic table. I mean, it's middle of summer. It's now dark out because it's 11 o'clock at night.
It's still warm.
It's still beautiful.
Unlike tonight.
Yes. So we're sitting outside on a picnic table, and I sit down, and I expect that he's going to go sit on the other side. And he even says to me, "Are you kidding? No, I'm going to sit right beside you." And I mean, I swear, if he could have sat on top of me, he would. Like, he was so close to me. He was like, I mean, snuggled right up next to me, which again didn't bother me. I didn't think twice about it. It just felt so natural to be close together. But I just remember how struck I was as to how close he was and how bonded he felt already to me. I mean, this was just one day. Granted, it was a long day, 7 in the morning, and now it's 11 o'clock at night. And yes, we had shared a tremendous amount. We had bonded on so many different levels. But still, like, just amazing how deep the connection was from one day.
When you feel something for the first time, and I had been married before, I had dated numerous times before, this was a level of closeness that I was completely unfamiliar with. Had no idea where it was going to go or why it existed, but I was enjoying the moment. And I could tell that Angie was too, so we just let the moment be. We just let it happen.
We just lived in it.
So then supper was done. It's very late at night now. It's time to go home.
Yes, I'm going to find that last little bit if I can. I have a little bit about the Dairy Queen that I'll read. So I wrote, "We let go of each other's hand long enough to get out of the truck, and then we were back together. It just felt right, and I didn't second guess what it was all about." Again, just like we said. "We had fun at Dairy Queen, laughing like crazy, enjoying our blizzards. We were crazy. Then we went home, both not wanting to let each other go. We just hugged and said goodbye in the elevator, both wanting to spend the night together, but both knowing it was too soon and would have been too much." And that's the next memory I think both of us have, is the elevator. It felt so wrong. It felt like my arm was being torn off by having to say goodbye and not be with him for the night. But yet my logical mind was going, well, that's inappropriate. You just met this man. You can't go to his apartment, even though, we weren't even thinking that way.
No.
It just felt wrong to be apart, but it felt wrong to be together in another sense.
So, yeah, I was feeling the very same way. I didn't want to be away from Angie.
Yeah.
But, she stepped out of the elevator and the elevator closed. And I felt very, very alone. It was worse than ripping off a Band-Aid. Believe me, to come off a fur like this, it hurts to rip off a Band-Aid. But it really did. I was just empty all of a sudden.
Yeah, it just felt so weird.
Looking back at it, I completely understand why. That day, I was just completely lacking any understanding of what had just happened.
Yeah, we didn't know about the soul merge or any of that, but that's obviously what had happened, and why, when we had to split apart in the elevator and say goodnight, why it felt so empty, so wrong, so lonely, because it was like our one soul was now being ripped apart again.
The soul had never seen that before.
Yeah, that was hard.
Maybe you met soul mates and you get all excited about meeting them next time. I couldn't get over the leaving of Angie. That wasn't about, I could maybe meet her some more. I'm still on holidays. I got another week to go. It wasn't about the next day. It was about how much it hurt to leave now. So the last thing I wrote in my journal, after we got off the elevator and, struggling with, we want to be together, but we can't, and all this stuff, I wrote, "So I went to bed that night exhausted yet happy from a very full, amazing day." And that is exactly what it was. In my over 20 years now, since that day, I have never, ever, ever had a day that has come close to it. Not to say anything bad about our wedding day, which was July 25th of this year. We got married 20 years from the day that we met, because our
day that we met, as you now know, was very significant. But nothing has surpassed that because it was such a unique day to meet your own soul in another body, to have the connection, to have that unity, that merging. Absolutely magical. Just everything that we shared, from all of the conversations, the connection, the reverse sunset, the not wanting to let go of each other's hands, even the synchronicity of how it all came together. Me just moving to Calgary a month and a half before, longing for somebody that I didn't even know existed, writing in my journal about 40 qualities that I wanted in a man, him just starting holidays, like all of it was just
Me tearing somebody's phone number off of a note. I've
completely.
never done that before, and I've never done it since.
Yes. So, the most incredible day of my life.
And so that is how that day ended.
That was our day.
We have numerous other things to go. I had another week's holidays. There's more story to tell.
Yes.
But I think today's story has wound its way through.
Yes. One thing I'll say, though, just to talk about our next story, is that Rob has a piece of our past as well. So I have the note that I wrote, and he also has a piece of our past that we'll share next week as well. So very exciting that we both have something from 20 years ago. So I think we'll leave you with that. We'll say good night. Thank you for watching. I know this is much longer than what we had intended, but this was a story that just had to be told all at once. This was not one that you can break into parts.
No, that was a big day.
Yes.
And now we can start to cover weeks again in the span of what we just covered a whole day in.
Yes.
But I wish more people would have a chance to have the day and the style of connection that we experienced. It is always a blessing. Sometimes you feel almost guilty for what we've been through, but now, can the guilt. We've learned to enjoy it, and we've learned to just take our blessings as they come. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you for watching. And as always, remember to connect with your twin. Go within, because as we just shared in our story, your twin literally is you, your own soul in another body. Good night.
Good night.